Welcome to the episode of Safe and Sound presented by Facebook. The outbreak of COVID 19 and lockdown that followed after that had affected and had an impact on interpersonal relationships and familial life. The family dynamics too seems to have changed during the pandemic. Today we have with us Ms. Rekha Sharma, who is the chairperson of NCW, that is National Commission for Women, and Mr. Amod Kant, who's retired worked as DGP and also runs an organization called Prayas that works with the victims of abuse. Welcome to the Soft and Sound episode, both of you. And we'll just start with first taking your comments on how the family dynamics have actually changed in COVID times, whether the effect has been positive, whether it has been negative, or both. Ma'am, you can go first.
So good evening, everyone whosoever is watching this episode. Let me tell you, nobody in the world was expecting what happened in 2020 to start with in January. But by March, everybody experienced a big change in their lives, especially when the lockdown happened. Nobody was expecting that the whole family will be staying under one roof and no one will be leaving home even for a minute. Children will not be going for school. Men will not be going to office. There will be no help at home. And the whole thing, I think the most difficult period was for women, because they were working not only for the office work from home, they were taking care of their house without any house help. There was no help for them. They were also taking care of their children's studies. So everything, from elderly care to cooking to cleaning, and then staying for the longer period with husbands or men of the family who were a little bit frustrated because they were not being able to go out. There were lack of money in the houses. They were not getting salaries after a few days or few months. So slowly the big change came in the lives of women. Not only work, but they were also facing problems, whether mentally or domestic or physical physical harassment from their husbands or from partners. Because the frustration, Indian men, every frustration, if they are happy, they will drink. If they are not happy, they will not drink. They will again drink. So right. Even when, when there was no liquor, people were saying they are frustrated because there was no liquor allowed, and that's why they are beating their wives. When liquor started, then media said, oh, why they allowed liquor and now they are again going to bash their women. So every negativity was for women, whether they have to work 24/7 or they have to take care of their children, or also face the wrath of their partners. Right. So yes, it happened, but then with that we also learned a few things in this. So there were few positive things which came with this. Like everybody started working online. And when I talk about NCW, not a single day we didn't work. We worked, but we worked from online. And with less of budget, we worked more than ever, I think. So everyone, even the women of the houses, we learned. And in fact, they learned to start small businesses from home. They now know how to market their product online. Facebook पे बहुत सारे ऐसी चीजें they are selling small things. Right. They cook things and sold their food also from home. So many positive things also happened amongst this, and people knew how to face this challenge.
Right.
And after a year, I can see that yes, we have come a long way from March 2020.
Okay. So, your comments on the same, the positive and negative effects of COVID on familial relationships, how the dynamics have changed. And I'm asking you this because you have also worked with a lot of victims of abuse. And what we noticed and what we know for a fact is that domestic violence cases have also gone up massively in this pandemic. We will talk about it in the next segment, wherein I'll talk about how these cases have risen and what are the reasons for it. But first, your opening remarks on the same.
Uh, Actually, my experience during the COVID times have been somewhat different compared to what Rekha ji said. See, and I would like to share that. See, I would like to divide my experience in three parts, actually, four parts, if you permit me. See, number one, that the day the Prime Minister announced on 24th of March that there is going to be lockdown. So immediately, the organizations which I am supposed to be connected, I mean, Prayas, for example, which runs about 200 centers in 10 states of India, you know it. And we have nearly 800 employees that time. During COVID times, unfortunately, the number has come down to 650, a little more than that, because we could not afford to keep them for so long.
Right.
Now, but then during that period, first problem was that all the 40 homes and shelters, including the homes for girls and the women that Prayas runs, and homes for the homeless people. Now, nearly 5,000 people are living in those homes. So I decided to contact all my officials who were running the homes. I told them to shift in their homes. So nearly 300, you will not believe, nearly 300 co-workers were shifted immediately to all those homes and shelters which we are supposed to run. We had no option but to run. That is one. Secondly,
right.
Since we are running some medical programs, some health programs in places like Arunachal Pradesh and Bihar and some other states, nearly 100 employees who are co-workers, health workers, including doctors, nurses and all. So we had to keep those primary health centers and sub-centers and even quarantine centers we started. So they were all on the job. And so that was second part of it. I mean, within that larger picture, the vocational training program, the educational programs had to be practically closed because unlike the government where the educational program had to be carried out online, they say it's only a claim. I'm sorry to say that the studies that we carried out give a different picture altogether. But then the other part of work, Rekha ji knows that I have been the chairman of Domestic Worker Sector Skill Council. So I met these people to partly open the office. They were very uncomfortable about it, but then we had no choice but to partly open. And we conducted a little survey on nearly 1,000 domestic workers in Bombay, in Delhi, and some other places. And that was very unfortunate, Rekha ji. That was really the findings, and their plight was very, very difficult to digest because almost all of them lost jobs. So we went out, we tried to find out on selective basis from their households, from their families. So the families of these domestic workers, there are nearly 20 million domestic workers in India. It is one of the largest employers. And then their condition was pathetic because they were subjected to abuses. They were not allowed to enter their households. Most of the households were closed for them. And there's nothing much we could do because we had no access to the households. In any case, it is very difficult. So that was one segment where we found all types of problems being faced by the families of domestic workers, their earning having gone. Now, some of these in Delhi particularly, we had to look after nearly 25,000 migrant workers because the government decided to keep them in our shelters. We have got big shelters in Delhi. You know it for sure, I am. So there we had to look after them and all kinds of issues came up. But then one point which I would like to say that the kind of problem which is being projected across the country and the problem in the media, in the households who are relatively affluent, middle class or maybe higher than middle class households, their problems were very different compared to the households I am talking about. I am talking about for example, Bihar. Almost every day we have in contact with Bihar people, and Bihar in the rural areas, in the small towns also the impact was felt, but in the villages situation was very, very different. And since our activities go far and wide in those areas, Now, that is the second part of it. And because of my contact with the police and the fact that we are running some of the crisis intervention center and some family counseling center, Rekha ji, you know that we are running family counseling centers also and some crisis intervention center. So these cases, I mean, during these 10 months, if I review, decidedly there have been many cases, many cases where either domestic violence was felt or women suffered, and the family counseling centers where they were activated with their complaints and all. So the problem, what I am trying to define, that in the higher strata of society, the problem had different form. In the lower strata, middle class, the problem was different. Again, about the schools, I am sure you know that there are 15 million, 1.5 million schools in India. And the number of schools where any kind of online program was running could be hardly those CBSE or ICSE schools and some other schools which are about 25,000 in the country. So the story of those 1.5 million schools run by various states, except in affluent states like Kerala and others, maybe in Delhi. So the scenario is very different and very disturbing. I'm not saying that it's less disturbing, because in their lives, the facilities that we are talking about, much talk about this online education program going on, well, it's hardly 5 to 10%. 80 to 90% programs were not actually running. So these are the various facets of the problem, and they create problem. Children, for example, if the children stay home, if they are not able to go to school, if the poor parents are not able to engage them in, I mean, they don't have smartphones, they don't have internet, their family situation is very bad. So those things have to be kept in mind. I mean,
but we're talking about the familial relationships, because that's what we're talking about now. And coming back to domestic abuse, ma'am, I'd like to ask you that even UN, in fact, said that this is a parallel sort of a shadow pandemic which is ongoing, because 20% increase in the number of cases was seen worldwide in cases of domestic abuse. Did National Commission of Women also see a trend of that sort? Did any such complaints come to you as well? And how did the commission deal with these complaints?
Since second week of the lockdown, I realized that the number of complaints we are receiving about domestic violence were increasing. I started noticing it because the world was talking about domestic violence, not only India. So the news about the domestic violence increasing were trickling down from all the countries. So I started noticing that it is increasing with us also. And then we started a group who was working 24/7 for these complaints. And also a WhatsApp number. On third week of the lockdown, we started a WhatsApp number where we were receiving the complaints, because we realized that because people could not send us the postal complaints were not coming to us. So they must be having some problem to reach us, because not many women know how to email or how to complain online. Like we have a online system for complaining, but not many women can, go to the website and complain. But whereas WhatsApp, everybody knows these days. So everybody's got a phone and they are using WhatsApp. So we started this WhatsApp where women don't even have to talk in a small room where their families are staying. They don't even want to that other person know that they are talking to someone and complaining someone. So they can easily reach us on they were just typing and sending us the complaint. In fact, in the starting, that number used to crash. Whenever we used to switch on that number, it used to crash the number of things coming to us.
Oh, so those many complaints were actually pouring in.
Actually, not everything was complained, but people were so harassed or so much stressed. They were just writing like how to like my salary I'm not getting. How to ma'am, can you start my phone? My phone is not working. Can you recharge it? Like these numbers also. Someone was thinking that there is a number where they can reach. ये लॉकडाउन कब खुलेगा, हमें सैलरी कब मिलेगी, anything and everything, and they were writing continuously. So complaints were also coming, And we noticed, yes, from previous months it was increasing, and by second month like it doubled, and third month 3 times more than the previous month
Right.
before the lockdown.
Right.
So then we had a meeting with all the DGPs of the states, and there we got to know that with them the complaints are decreasing. People were not going to the police, they were
Okay.
coming to us. And that's how we realized that the number of complaints to us, why they were increasing, because
Right.
they were not being able to go to the police because of the lockdown, because thane tak jana mushkil tha. So
Ji.
they were straight away coming to us.
Right.
And they don't want to call 100 number also, otherwise police come to their house. And so many times women don't want to separate, to get separation from their husband. They
Right.
just wanted counseling for their husbands.
Right.
So that's why they were reaching us, and we were providing them counseling also on
Right.
phone to the family. And if they wanted to shift from the house and go to a shelter home or to their family, we were helping them in that also with the help of police. But in most of the cases, they wanted to talk to somebody, share their problem, and somebody to talk to their husband. And that's
Right.
what we were doing. And I have a very good team, and I'm proud that my team could cope up with all those things in those months. And because that number was so popular, we are still having that number in spite of now offices opening and they can walk in and they can write to us. We
Right.
are still using that number for women to reach us.
Right. Ma'am, but it is a very scary thought if a woman, particularly for a woman who's stuck inside a house with her abuser, because otherwise, in normal times, the abuser, that's the husband in most cases, would go out to work and then only come during the night. But getting stuck with that person throughout the day and for such a long time must have been extremely harrowing. So, was there some special kind of training given to your employees to deal or to counsel the husbands or to deal with such complaints? Because this was completely new, even for everyone. I mean, nobody had seen that. A situation would come wherein the abuser is stuck with the victim in the house, and people are not very forthcoming discussing their problems also.
So we have trained counselors. They can very nicely counsel the people. Plus, NCW's name is little. I think people are aware that NCW में है तो कोई problem ना हो जाए. So we
जी.
used to use साम दाम दंड भेद. किसी को डराना है तो डरा के, किसी को प्यार से. So हर तरीके से. So we used everything so that women can be safe inside the houses.
Right.
We also had webinars and seminars, and they were live on Facebook.
Right.
Whether it is about mental health, because mental health was a problem in those days. So
Right.
we talked about mental health. We talked about domestic violence. We talked about many other things online and Facebook Live, mostly in all those
Right.
webinars, so that women can
Right.
see and get help from all those talks where specialists were talking about
Right.
the problems of the women.
Right.
We engaged with women in many ways, not only by webinars. We could reach them by sending those advertisement on TV where they can, how they can reach us. So throughout the lockdown and after that also, I think our reach was much better. And after lockdown also, I can see that people, our complaints are coming because
Right.
now they are aware that NCW can help them.
Right. So next question is to you. Why are women actually reluctant to go to the police? Like ma'am said, they would rather come to NCW, and there's this sort of hesitance that we should not go to the police. One could also be that the police comes to the home, to sab dekhenge, society kya bolegi. That is one thing. But since you have held important positions in the police department, what do you have to say about this reluctance of going to the police to reach out to them for help?
See, in normal times also, the women, majority of women, particularly those women who happen to be let's say, protected in their household, whose families are strong enough to not let them go to the police or not to disclose things outside. That kind of women, that kind of women who have suffered domestic violence, let me inform you that it is not necessary that domestic violence is suffered by only the women from, let's say,
Absolutely.
rundown families, or even,
Right.
let's say, lower strata of society or middle class. The women of very high strata of society also suffer domestic violence as much. Same
Right.
as the children also, they suffer violence, they suffer abuse equally. You know it very well. We have been conducting massive surveys in this regard and found that socioeconomic profile or socioeconomic strata is not a limitation. It's not a barrier. So the police, uh, accessing the police to ask them to help inside their household, I agree. There are not many. In fact, my colleagues in the police, when I tried to find out from them that what kind of complaints of domestic violence really came to them, let me inform you, I didn't find many with the police. That is one. No, but another thing which comes to my mind, which I would like to refer to, which is very important again concerning domestic violence. See the 1098, Rekhaji, you know very well, the child helpline. The child helpline, which is a massive network of services, and child helpline is very, very popular and it is well established. And lakhs of calls come in child helpline. You know, I'm sure you know about it. 1098 is a very powerful medium. Prayas also runs six of them. We run six child helplines, including Delhi. So these helplines were very active during this period. Rekhaji, I think, let me inform you that if you look at the profile, I mean, the number of cases, the complaints, because in any case, the largest chunk of the children or others connecting on child helpline are from the households in the privacy of home. They connect the child helpline 1098 and they are given counseling. So that kind of counseling or intervention has been very common. Numbers there are almost as much or maybe higher than before. That was the entire COVID period it happened. There again, the problem was that the children, those children who are locked up in the household, not able to come out. Well, I think the opportunities for the voluntary organizations to go into their places and rescue the child, take them away, there were not many. I mean, that number would be less. But the number of calls and the number of counseling cases, I think, definitely were very high. And majority of these children were somewhere, I mean, somewhere either in the household or wherever they were. From there, they were trying to contact. Because the children also suffered very badly. I
Right.
mean, locked up in the household or locked up in a situation from where they can't move out. It was a
Right.
serious affair. I mean, I can give you one small example. For example, a large number of children we had rescued from Rajasthan and we had taken to Bihar. And in Bihar, these children we had kept in some of these residential programs which government of Bihar runs. And then during this period, somehow the government decided that they were almost at par. They are considered to be at par with the schools. So along with their schools, they were closed. And these children were sent back their homes in villages. And those children suffered very badly during this period. Because even those children who were undergoing various kind of programs, they could not really do it. In their poor household, they suffered very badly. So the various manifestations of this problem within the household also. I mean, you cannot strictly cover them in the areas where Rekhaji has very in detail, great detail she has explained. But then these are again happening in the privacy of homes, within
Right.
the households where the people are locked up in that sense, the children
Right.
particularly, as I mentioned to you. Okay.
Right. Ma'am, I would like to ask you during this work from home entire bit, in fact, you had mentioned it initially in the interview that the burden on women have increased manifolds because they're also working from home. Their office work is also being done from home, and then they also have children to look after. Then they also have their work the household chores that one has to look at. So has this entire pandemic really eaten into a private space of a woman? Because at least when she used to go to office, go to work, she would not be at home and doing 10 other things that she's doing now side by side along with her work. So has it really eaten into that space? Also, has it mentally affected a woman because she's now multitasking, doing so many things at the same time?
Absolutely, that's what I was saying. Women who are homemakers, they generally get time after the husband leaves for office, after children goes to school, they have that me time. Then they will have their breakfast, their tea. They will sit. They will chat with their family, their friends. They sometimes go to the parlor. They will go to the kitty or bhajan kirtan or whatever they want to. But here during the pandemic, there was no me time for them. They were either working for their husbands, cooking food for their children and family. They were cleaning. They were doing all kinds of things, household things, and teaching their children. Plus, sometime when they working women, they were working from home also. So we have seen during the meetings how our own staff started saying that, "Ma'am, kab office khologe? We are sick because of the lockdown. One child will get up at 9 and they will say that I want this for breakfast. Another will get up at 10 and then he will say that I want this, and husband will get up at a certain time and he demands some different things. So all the time we are in the kitchen and cooking for the family. So
Right.
seeing my own staff, I could imagine that what is happening in the whole of the world. In fact, not only in the
Right.
country. So women were working. They were working for the office. Plus, we have seen cases of sexual harassment, online sexual harassment also increased when women were working from home. And there we saw that they were being harassed by the colleagues also. Not only in the world, but the way they were dressed up in the meeting, the way they used language, because initially nobody knows that you are in the office from home. So there has to be certain dignity how you are sitting in front of the camera. You
Right.
have to use the certain kind of language. What is in the backside of your wall? If woman is seeing something unusual and she's being uncomfortable seeing that, so all those things people never knew that how to take care of all these things. So yes, these complaints also increased with us, especially sexual harassment in workplace cases and online harassment, both.
Okay. Okay. Right. Talking of children, there was also a report that the number of trafficking cases of children have also risen during the lockdown period. In fact, there were reports saying that children for illegal labor and forced marriages have also increased during COVID times. If you could just shed some light on the reasons of why this would have happened.
No, see, it happened in two phases. Let me tell you, that's a very important point you mentioned. And we have dealt with that, directly dealt with these cases, many cases. See, first of all, when the COVID, this lockdown was announced, and that very famous and unfortunate migration, the reverse migration took place. Millions of coming back from their places, they became jobless. And along with them, you could see the children trailing along with them. Large number of children. I think probably because children means less than 18 years of age. So those who don't visibly, they don't look like children, even they are children because they are working. They're working, even ma'am is in this domestic work also. You know it very well that nearly 30% happen to be less than 18 actually. That is our understanding of the domestic workers also. So decidedly, those people who are coming back, millions of them who came back, among them were large number of children who suffer terribly. That is one part of it. Secondly, they started going back. Now, past 2-3 months, we have found that migration again, trying to migrate because the conditions back home became so miserable. The problem of lack of livelihood, like Bihar, for example. I refer to Bihar time and again because number one, we have a lot of programs there. Number two, I belong to Bihar. I know the state very well. Now, again, the problem is that they went back home. They had no place to stay. They had no kind of livelihood behind them. So not only those workers trying to go back to their workplace, you must have heard the stories of the commercial sex workers, for example, or the red light areas. They have their own problems. So the overall impact of the women, what Rekha ji explained here is absolutely real. And it's very, very vivid the way she spoke about it. But then those kind of children, less than 18 years of age, Particularly, I'm again referring to the children who don't belong to the higher status. The
Right.
children, they go totally invisible. They are not seen. I mean, you cannot find out what's happening to them. But since
Right.
as voluntary organizations, we have attempted to find out. See, again, one point, let me inform you. Rekhaji, what happened that in the beginning, most of these voluntary organizations were not able to work, including the women's organization. So, you know that I'm the moderator, the coordinator of Niti Ayog's standing committee of CSOs. So we requested Mr. Amitabh Kant, requested Rajiv Kumar, and they became very active. They addressed 96,000 organizations across the country who are on the Urban portal. They were asked to go back and try to do some work. District magistrates were told to let them be issued proper kind of movement passes, which were not available to them. So it took quite some time before they could go back to the places where they were required. The voluntary organizations working for women, for children, for various downtrodden kind of people. So these things happened during this period.
Right.
And then in the process, we came across the vulnerable sections being much more kind of traumatized and much more victimized, or they came to serious grief during this period. That's
Right.
very important. Okay.
Ma'am, also in this, the complaints of domestic abuse that you got, did you also see a pattern? Was there a strata of society from where you were getting most number of complaints? Was there an age group of women who were suffering this kind of abuse?
Middle age mostly, but yes, all walks of life, from lower rank to upper, everybody. So when I say domestic violence, let me tell you, it is happening in everywhere, in all kinds of societies. But lower strata, there women can raise their voice. They can shout. They
Right.
even call 100 and call police.
Right.
But in higher society, women always, they don't tell others that something is happening to them. They don't
Right.
even complain to the police. That I have seen in many cases, when they don't, they can't take any more beating or any more abuse, then only they come out and talk about it. Otherwise, they just take it and just don't complain to anyone.
Right.
They just in the evening, if husband is beating, in the morning again they will go to the office with all the makeup on, and they will never tell anyone what is happening to them.
Right.
So here I would like to tell women that they need to talk to others. They need to raise their voice. They need to complain on these actions. Otherwise, things will not stop like this.
Right. To you, what are the legal remedies that are available? And this is also for our viewers. What are the legal remedies available for women who are subjected to such abuse, whether it is domestic abuse, sexual abuse at home? What do they, are they supposed to reach out to somebody for counseling? Are they supposed to report it? What are the legal remedies for them?
No, I think the laws are in plenty. We have no dearth of laws now. Past couple of years, the kind of legislations that we had, there is absolutely no dearth of laws. Under
Right.
Indian Penal Code, you have got all types of provisions which protect the women in a big way. Criminal Law Amendment Act, Rekhaji, which was the post Nirbhaya, for example, all possible situations of sexual harassment or sexual violence, not necessarily the assault, they are very much covered. And then even let's say if what Rekhaji was trying to explain, that let's say in a home situation, some female worker is there online and somebody is trying to tease, somebody is trying to take advantage of it online also. So I think the Information Technology Act, IT Act provides for it, IPC now provides for it. So there are provisions. I think the provisions of Domestic Violence Act could also be resorted to. There is no dearth, but the biggest problem is that how do you reproach that authorities?
Right.
And then I'm so happy to hear Rekhaji's appreciation for the fact that unfortunately the women may be suffering much more while they belong to lower status in socio-economically. But at the same time, these are the women who are able to complain, who are able to raise their voice. Majority of cases, I mean, at least we must be having not less than 2,000 cases in past couple of years in our family counseling center, and we find that majority of them happen to be coming from lower status whose cases either got exposed or they reported. So, and they revolt, of course, from the given situation many a times.
Right. So last question for this discussion before we wrap up. Strengthening of these laws, as Sir was saying, does not seem to work because we're still getting these complaints of abuse, and now more so from inside homes. So, ma'am, first I'll come to you. What else need to be done to make our women safe inside homes, outside homes?
Firstly, to change the mindset of people, we need to work on the awareness campaigns. We need to raise our children in a proper way so that the next generation will be better than the present generation. Secondly, the implementation of laws. Laws are all there, but the implementation of laws. Secondly, the delays in the judgments.
Right.
So if we are saying that these are deterrent laws, how will they be deterrent if there is no judgment for 10 years, 7 years, 8 years, and people are sitting and waiting for the judgment?
Right.
So these three things, and most important, what I'm saying at the first point is making people gender equal, is to make them aware that we are equal, men and women are equal, and it should start from the family itself.
Right.
If we need change in the society, we need to change our own families. So that is the most important things. Otherwise, any number of laws, you get any number of laws, even the implementation, unless society change its mindset, nothing will change.
Right.
So we need to work towards it now.
Right. Sir, your comments.
So the women helplines, which are there also, I mean, they are quite prevalent in different parts of the country. There is a national level women helpline, a state level women helplines. Then, of course, the commissions also have their own women helplines. And child helplines, of course, I have talked about it. Probably the child helplines have been more effective than women helplines in many cases. Results can be very different. And there, of course, so I would like to point out that the role of voluntary organizations is very important, because not always the police is able to act. And in police also, decidedly, the women police officers. The women police officers will be far better placed to take action in these very critical and delicate situations. Getting inside the home is a difficult proposition, except when you are called upon to do so through some kind of helpline, or you're called upon to do so through the counseling centers or the counseling programs within the police also. I mean, within the police, now there are crime against women, or maybe women and children helplines, or women and children units of the police. They are dealing with these cases. Almost every state, every state in India, all the police systems, we have been asking and we have been getting to set up these women and children units. And these units are helpful. They are quite helpful. So they have to be activated. They have to be activated. Okay?
Great. Thank you so much.
Amoji, what you're saying is that all those things are after the crime happens. I'm saying if we want to change the society, we need to change it from the family itself, because police and every law comes after the crime happens. We don't want those crimes to happen in the society.
I entirely agree. I entirely agree, Rekhaji. I entirely agree with you. This is the requirement, that unless they change the way they look at things, the way they look at, for example, the women suffering within the household during the COVID times, for the simple reason that they're women and they have to do everything. I mean, that's something which is very sad. I mean, you must have heard that a lot of these reports came where it was found that women had to work 3 times more compared to men. There was a study, that study was there, very important. They had to work 3 times more compared to men within the household during COVID times. So that's there. So we have to change the mindset.
Right. Well, that's a very valid point. In fact, that the change has to start from home. We need to sensitize our men more, and the crimes have to stop. And that root cause has to be dealt with. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us at this the Prince episode of Safe and Sound presented by Facebook. This was a really, really insightful discussion. Thank you so much for giving your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.